Meeting is called to order. It is 6 o'clock. So I will call the regular meeting of the City Council. I will call the regular meeting of the Milpitas City Council on October 15th, 2024 in order. So while this meeting is being broadcast via Zoom, oral public comment may only be provided live at the City Council meeting in person. The City Council meeting is available for instant translation in over 50 languages with Wordly, accessible via mobile phone, computer, and video displays. To use Wordly, scan the QR code located on the title page of the agenda in the upper right-hand corner. And so back to today's business. City Clerk Gazetta, please take the roll call.
Councilmember Barbadillo. Vice Mayor Chua.
Here.
Councilmember Liane.
Here.
Councilmember Fan.
Present.
Mayor Montano.
And I am here. Thank you for that. So before we adjourn to closed session, City Attorney Mutalapasi, please brief the public of the closed session items for today.
Thank you, Mayor. The council today has one closed session item to consider pursuant to GC section 54957. This is a performance evaluation for the city manager. It's a regular evaluation per contract.
Okay, thank you. And so I will call for public comment on the closed session item. Please note tonight's public comment will be limited to 2 minutes. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on a?
Mayor,
Closed
I
session.
have no public speaker cards.
You have none, and I don't see anyone. So meeting will be adjourned. We'll close the public hearing and meeting will be adjourned. Thank you. To close session. It looks like everyone is back. Okay. All right. Meeting is now called to order. So everyone, we will rise up for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Report out.
What our city attorney will report out what item for closed session?
Thank you, Mayor. The council discussed the city manager's performance review per his contract, and there's nothing further to report out at this time.
Thank you, city attorney. And now I will do the invocation. I'm going to read or say the Lord's Prayer. You can bow your heads if you wish. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us for our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Thank you, everyone. And so now we'll go do presentations. So council members, would you join me down to the dais? Welcome, everyone. So I will be reading National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and Diwali. Verse 1. So today we recognize October as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Domestic violence affects all people of all genders, ages, and backgrounds, with 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men in the United States experiencing severe violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime. While progress has been made, much more must be done to prevent this violence and support survivors. This month, we emphasize awareness, prevention, and community support. Now join me, Mayor Carmen Montano, and the Milpitas City Council in proclaiming October 2024 as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the city of Milpitas. Is there anyone that would like to receive this proclamation? Please come up. And would you like to say a few words, please?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council members, and members of the public. My name is Jasleen Kaur. I'm a resident of Milpitas since December 2022. October is nationally commemorated as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Today, I stand here as an advocate for victims and survivors of domestic violence to commemorate Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I represent Maitri, an organization devoted to serving victims and survivors of domestic violence since 1991, and want to take a few moments to talk about an epidemic that is pervasive in our homes, cities, state, country, and all over the world. Intimate partner violence or domestic violence is an ill that exists in all communities, irrespective of culture, religion, sexual orientation, financial status, and immigration realities. Domestic violence is the 3rd leading cause of homelessness among families in the United States. Research also informs us about the lasting negative impacts on children growing up in a household experiencing and witnessing domestic violence. California has higher rates of domestic violence experienced by both men and women when compared to the national average. There were 103 domestic violence-related homicides in California in 2023, of which 74 of the fatalities were female and 29 were male. Domestic violence has a significant economic impact in California. In 2022, the total cost of domestic violence to the state of California was $73.7 billion, which is about $230 per person in the United States. Last year, MED3 provided culturally responsive services to 777 individuals. Organizations around California served more than 57,000 individuals with life-saving supporting services. The need for a comprehensive plan to address domestic violence in our communities is urgent, and we thank the City of Milpitas for providing much-needed assistance in many areas, as well as the request to step up the effort. I request the City Council and its residents to become partners with us in preventing domestic violence and facilitating effective intervention methods if it happens. Here are a few things to consider. First, create a supportive environment for everyone to seek out information, services related to relationship abuse. Second, demand curriculum and practices that uplift healthy relationship at every educational level and professional spaces. Third, enact and support policies that address intersectional approach to addressing domestic violence, homelessness, pay equity, reproductive rights, poverty reduction, banning child marriages, to name a few. Fourth, support funding for domestic violence service providers at the federal, state, county, and city levels. Fifth, rethink law enforcement responses to crisis situations with special focus on stopping brutality against people of color and trainings on domestic violence. Sixth, evaluate and improve language access at city facilities. Seventh, offer training on cultural responsiveness to various local government employees and agencies. Eighth, involve non-governmental organizations as thought partners while planning city activities. Ninth, uplift the voices of the minority groups whenever possible, as they lack representation in committees and other policy-making spaces. I once again thank the City of Milpitas for providing much-needed assistance. And I also thank everyone here for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Here, and here's, this is your, take a picture. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. And next we have Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Today we recognize October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Breast cancer remains the most commonly diagnosed cancer among women in the United States, with 1 in 8 women expected to be diagnosed in their lifetime. Though it primarily affects women, men are also at risk, making early detection and regular screening vital for everyone. Cancer Care Point provides vital services, including counseling assistance and education for those affected by cancer. This month provides an opportunity to support those affected, honor lives lost, and promote ongoing research toward finding a cure. Join me, Mayor Carmen Montano, and the Milpitas City Council in proclaiming October 2024 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Milpitas. And I would like to have someone here who would like to accept this. Thank you very much. Please come and say a few words.
Thank you to the City Council and the City of Milpitas. I can't wait to bring this back to Cancer Care Point and share with all of our employees the great work that they do and the recognition that Milpitas has given us today. The recognition that you gives us visibility in the city and the county for us to do more of the work that we do. If I can expand on the explanation, our services include support groups, one-on-one couples and family counseling for patients, caregivers, survivors, family, and those that are grieving the loss of someone from cancer. What I love in particular is that we teach The therapists teach patients and caregivers to advocate for the cancer patient and teach them how to talk to their medical team. And that can be invaluable to ease their pain and help with their survival. We also offer classes and information on exercise and nutrition and mind and body. And one thing that is particularly important to me is we offer a wig bank. And the wig bank is free. Wigs are not covered by most insurance companies. And when you go to our wig bank, you get fitted for a wig or a scarf or a hat, and you can learn how to wear it. As someone who was previously bald in 2007 from my own chemotherapy treatment, I was ready to be bald, I thought, until I walked into the society as a bald woman and realized everyone saw me as sick. And I couldn't fake it anymore like I could when I had hair. And with a wig, you have that opportunity now to decide. You can go to the grocery store and pretend to be normal for a day and just get your groceries. And so I think the wig bank is a wonderful thing that we offer. The people who have done it are amazing at what they do and helping people through that. And so if I can ask you guys one more favor, is to let someone know about Cancer Care Point and the free services that we give. Don't wait until you know someone who has cancer. Just tell somebody, because we all get touched by cancer at some point in time, whether it's personal or a family member or a friend or an employee or a coworker. And so if you can share with just one person, we might be able to help more people in the Bay Area. I want to thank you again for Milpitas and the council for this opportunity. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, thanks. Oh, okay.
Thank you very much. And now we have Diwali. So join us in celebrating Diwali, the Festival of Lights. This cherished festival observed by Hindus, Sikhs, Jains, and Buddhists all over the world symbolizes the triumph of light over darkness, good over evil, and hope over despair. It brings together families and communities in celebration of peace, prosperity, and renewal. Here in Milpitas, we are proud to recognize the valuable contributions of our Indian and South Asian communities who enrich the cultural fabric of our city. Now join me, Carmen Montano, Mayor of the City of Milpitas, and the City Council in proclaiming Diwali in the City of Milpitas. So I would like to present this to any organization that, is there anyone here? If not, come on up of your heritage, I guess. Thank you very much. Would you like to say something about Diwali? Of course. I know that you say something. Thank you so much. Happy Diwali. So this Diwali is when all the festival of lights are all around town. It's very, very, very festive. And so now we will be doing the keys to the city. So we have our very own Jacqueline Liu. I don't know how you want to do this here. And come up. We have several Olympians. We have Kanat Ja. He was a table tennis to be accepted by his father, Arun Ja. Is he here? Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Let's give him a big round of applause. We are so proud of you to making our city proud. Thank you so much. We're giving you this key to city to connect.
Do you want to read it?
Would you like to say? Yeah, come on.
Well, we are honored. We've been here for more than 28 years. My son Kanak grew up in Milpitas, so he's a three-time Olympian. And we are really honored to have City of Milpitas recognize this. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Wait. Chief. Chiefs.
I watched the Olympics.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. So we also have the City of Milpitas proclamation for you as well. Come back, come back.
There's two, and there's a commendation as
Okay.
well. Oh,
That's a
and
good-
one more.
We have another one for you. For your son. Thank you very much. Okay. So the next Olympian is Emma Malabuyo. Emma, artistic swimming to be accepted by her aunt Josephine 3. Josephine? We have the keys to the city. Would you like?
And all this.
And then we have the other ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on behalf of my niece Emma, she was actually a gymnast, so just to make that correction. But it truly is an honor, and so I'm just glad and proud of her to be able to represent the city of Milpitas. And so, yeah, thank you for honoring her.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. The uncle, the uncle. They're twins.
Thank you. We're so proud. Okay, and the next one is our very own Olympian, Jacqueline Liu for artistic gymnastics. Thank you. Come on up. We also have proclamation and here.
Oh,
Thank
another
you.
one.
You want to say a few words? I would say a few. Yeah, say a few.
Hello, everybody. Thank you to the Milpitas City Council and Mayor Carmen Montano and everyone of the general public for being here. My name is Jacqueline Liu. I was on the USA Artistic Swimming Olympic team for this past Olympic Games, and we came back with a silver medal for Team USA, which was amazing. Me and my family have been residents of Milpitas for a long time, a few decades. And so it's really such an honor to be here and be awarded this recognition by this amazing city of Milpitas. So thank you.
Your parents here?
Parents, come on down.
Your parents here? Parents, your dad is shy. Yeah, hold that one.
Hold that.
Do you want her to? Rochelle, will you take a picture for mom?
Yeah. You wanna go in?
Oh.
There you go. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next.
Let's give them another round of applause for all the Olympians in our city, from our city. Thank you. Thank you so much. And so now, thank you, thank you. Oh, wait, more.
Want it on your phone.
Did you take one with each of these consoles? Might as well throw it in there. Oh, you have it. Yeah. Oh, and last one. Cross country coaches.
The little cross country.
Hey, thank you so much. Yay. You do us proud. Thank you. And now we have the Milpitas High School cross-country coaches, Johannes Asnake, head coach, Dylan Hu, assistant coach. Would you come on up, please? So thank you, the coach of the Milpitas High School boys cross-country team. Wonderful. And then this is for you. Oh, Johannes couldn't make it? Okay. And this is for you, Coach Dylan? Hu?
Yes.
Well, you can give it to him.
Oh.
What you say a few words too.
Okay.
I just wanted to thank the city council for giving us this recognition. We've been fighting really hard to just make cross country a much more accessible sport. And so we've been trying to grow the program. So we really appreciate the opportunity to be up here. Unfortunately, Coach Johannes couldn't be here today, but he would have loved this moment. He's been a Milpitas alum since and he's been coaching here for a very long time. So he's a strong connection with the city. So I know that he would have really appreciated this moment as well. And we really just want to thank the city and all the parents and all the support and all the schools for just giving us the opportunity to compete for this and represent the city.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, we have to take a picture. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And so now we have Milpitas High School cross country, the team captains, Aziza Acosta, Arnav Agrawal. Come on up. You know, I used to be in cross country too when I was at Milpitas High School many, many years ago. So this is great. So I want you guys to say something. So for Aziza, and then is yours. And then Arnav.
Thank you so much to the Milpitas City Council for recognizing this. I really appreciate the chance to represent our team and all the amazing athletes we have. I really appreciate it. And, I love the sport and I love that it's getting recognized. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you to everyone for recognizing us and bringing like some awareness to cross country, because it's actually a pretty hard sport, but a lot of people do it. And I want to thank my coaches for giving us this opportunity and doing so much just for us to be able to run every single day. And thank you to the board members for recognizing us.
Thank you. One more. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you. And that is it for the presentations. Thank you so much for coming out here. Thank you. Evelyn, grab my pen. Oh, Chief, you, okay, thank you. All right. I gotta have that here. Thank you so much. Okay, so now it is time for public forum. Members of the public are invited to speak on any item that does not appear on today's agenda. Please note that oral public comment may only be provided live at the city council meeting in person. Public forum will be limited to 2 minutes. Any speakers from the city clerk?
Yes, we have a speaker card from Voltaire Montemayor.
Welcome, Mr. Montemayor.
Voltaire Montemayor of Milpitas. Yeah, I'm touched. The bulleted presentations, domestic violence. There should be a good dialogue between the partners before something happens of hurting someone physically. The breast cancer, I know. Yeah, if it's already in a higher stage, I don't think it's time to cry, but yeah, we felt it. We have chemotherapies, but sometimes it's really hard to survive. The Diwali, yeah, it's a good life against darkness. There's a pure thing to happen. So thank you from the Indian community. The recognition of Milpitas Olympians. I myself is a sportsman since I was young. So hopefully it's not only this kind of recognition. I'm not doing politics now. There may be some recognitions, awards, parade. That's all I can say. In the captains, I used to be playing coach also. Back to I am a ping pong player. Not as good as the swimmers probably. So yeah, it's good that the city is recognizing those abilities. And congratulations to all. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Montemayor. Are there any other speakers?
I have no additional public speaker cards.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to say any few words? Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, so now moving on to the reading of the City Council Code of Conduct. If any of my colleagues would like to volunteer to read, we have Vice Mayor Chua.
Mayor, we have the announcement of conflict of interest and campaign contributions first.
Hold on. All right, City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. I ask you, Mayor, and each of the council members whether he or she has any financial or personal conflict of interest related to any of the items on tonight's agenda.
Councilmember Barbadillo.
None.
Vice Mayor Chua.
None.
Councilmember Lien.
None.
Councilmember Fan.
None.
Mayor Montano.
And I am in a none.
Thank you. I further ask you, Mayor Montano, and the members of the Milpitas City Council to please disclose any campaign contribution of $100 or more received within the last 12 months from any of the parties entering into contracts with the city on tonight's agenda, or contributions received from the development project applicant for development projects on tonight's agenda.
Councilmember Barbadillo.
None.
Vice Mayor Chua.
None.
Councilmember Lien.
None.
Councilmember Fan.
None.
Mayor Montano.
None.
Please let the record reflect there are no reported conflicts or disclosures.
Thank you, Attorney Mutalapasi. And now, reading of the Code of Conduct, we have Vice Mayor Chua who would like to volunteer for that.
Thank you, Mayor. Milpitas City Council Code of Conduct. Be respectful and courteous. Model civility. Avoid surprises. Praise publicly and criticize privately. Focus on the issue, not the person. Refrain from using electronic devices while on the council dais. Disclose conflicts of interest and affiliations related to agenda items. Separate governing from campaigning. The council speaks with one voice after making policy on issues. Respect the line between policy and administration. Council will hold one another accountable to comply with this code of conduct. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Chua. And so now we're moving on to the consent calendar. As staff, do you have any comments from staff?
Mayor, we have the approval of the agenda first.
Approve the agenda first.
Oh, sorry about that. For some reason I have. Yeah, I have consent calendar on my script.
Sorry.
Okay, so we will approve the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? So from any of the colleagues? Okay, we have Councilmember Lin.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Is there a second? We have Councilmember Barbadillo to second it. So we had Councilmember Han Lin approve the agenda, second, and then we had a second from Councilmember Barbadillo. So now we'll take a vote.
Councilmember Barbadillo,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Chua,
Aye.
Councilmember Lian,
Aye.
Councilmember Fan,
Aye.
Mayor Montano.
And I'm an aye. Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to the consent calendar. All right, so staff, do you have any comments or changes for the consent calendar?
No comments or changes, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, so council members, how would you like to proceed on the consent calendar? Anyone have any items to remove? We have Vice Mayor Chua.
I'd like to defer C12, please, or whenever it's possible for the next meeting.
Okay, so it was recommended that we remove C12 for the next meeting. Or to defer C12 for the next meeting. Do we need to take a vote on this one here, or do we have to wait till the end of the consent?
You could do the motion.
So Vice Mayor Chua would like to make a motion to table this for the next meeting. Is there a second?
I think I can move the entire consent with the deference of C12. That's the motion.
Is there a second? I'll go ahead and second that. Take a vote.
Mayor, we need to have public comment first.
Okay,
I was gonna.
so who has their, okay, hold on. Okay, is there a public comment on this item?
Next meeting. Do you want to
Okay,
defer it
whenever.
for 2 meetings?
Whenever.
Do you wanna-
Whenever it's
do you wanna
convenient.
make a motion?
Do you want to, okay, so we have, Vice Mayor is going to remake the motion. Hold on, let me get you it back on the screen. Okay, not working.
Do you want to restate the motion?
Vice
It's
Mayor.
not working. Oh, there.
Is it working? It's not
So
working.
Vice Mayor, as I pointed out to you, the next meeting will be the date of the election. And it may not be prudent for us to have a long report on that day. I was wondering if you wanted to amend your motion to make it one of the meetings in December.
Right. So move.
Okay, so for some reason I can't get you on that. It's not working for some reason. Okay. So I'll go ahead and so it's seconded by, no, I thought maybe she was gonna, okay, so it's seconded by Councilmember Barbadillo. And is it okay? Let's take a vote.
Councilmember Barbadillo,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Chua,
Aye.
Councilmember Liang,
Aye.
Councilmember Fan,
Aye.
Mayor Montano.
And I am an aye. Thank you very much. And now we're moving on to community services and sustainable infrastructure. So we have city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an update on the street sweeping pilot project that was an expansion of that project that was approved by the council some time ago. We have our Assistant Director of Public Works, Elaine Marshall, as well as a member of staff, Mivan, here to present I think Elaine's going to make an introduction and Mivan will give the presentation.
Oh, thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Elaine Marshall, Deputy Public Works Director. I'm joined by Mivan Kusiman, who is our Solid Waste Program Manager. We're here tonight to provide an update on the street sweeping pilot program, which you'll see through the presentation. We are rebranding since it's been about 3 years since the pilot started. It's more of an ongoing program now, which we are referring to as the Parking Prohibited Street Sweeping Program. So Mivan's here tonight to walk you through the efforts that were made over the last year to do outreach to the expansion areas and go over the staff recommendations. And then we're both available for questions after.
Thank you, Elaine. As Elaine mentioned, my name is Mivan Kusiman with the solid waste team here. Just quickly, I wanted to give a shout out to the solid waste team, Alan Haw, and the interns basically that did a lot of work and data crunching for this whole project. So I'm here to talk to you tonight about the street sweeping pilot program expansion, as Elaine mentioned, now called the Parking Prohibited Street Sweeping Program. So just a little background on the program. The original pilot was in 4 residential areas. It was a 1-year-long pilot, and there were 3 main goals to the pilot. One is to move vehicles to allow the street sweeper access to the street. 2 is to reduce litter impact to the waterways, and 3 is to beautify the neighborhood. Next slide, please. So what's the difference between the street sweeping pilot program and the regular program? So the regular program is twice a month street sweeping for residential neighborhoods. Both sides of the street are swept, and street sweeping occurs between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. In the pilot program, signs were installed for no parking during street sweeping, and we limited that time frame for the street sweeping for 2 hours between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m., as well as providing alternate sides of the street being swept. And the reason for that is because we were sensitive to the neighbors wanting to have parking. So we wanted there to be just a shorter window of 2 hours, and then they would be able to move their cars to the other side of the street. The big thing with the program is that there would be citations that would be issued because of the parking violations that would really clear the street for the street sweeper. Next slide, please. So the pilot program timeline, it was approved as part of the fiscal year 1920 budget, and it was a 1-year pilot which began in March of 2021. We provided updates throughout the pilot to various commissions, the Transportation Committee, and then we came back to City Council a year later at the end of the pilot in June of 2022 to give an update of how the pilot went and the effectiveness of the program. Some highlights included that there was an 82% reduction in parked vehicles and a 28% increase in streets curb that was accessible by the sweeper. Then we were directed by City Council to expand the program to different areas. We explored the potential expansion areas, and we came back to City Council the following year in March of 2023 to discuss the different areas and to add expansion criteria. From there, what was left was outreach. Next slide, please. So I wanted to take a moment to review the criteria that was approved by City Council for expanding the program. Here you can see that the criteria was at least 40% of the street was blocked in street sweeping days. The areas identified in the city's long-term trash plan as being impacted by trash. There was visible litter and debris in the streets, and we determined that by doing field work and doing on-land visual trash assessments out there in all the different areas. And then also a minimum of 1 curb mile required for new neighborhoods to be added to the program. Staff did an analysis of all of those criteria, and the only remaining one was that at least 50% of homes in the neighborhood show interest and support and no parking signage and enforcement. The reason we wanted this is we wanted to hear from the neighborhood and we wanted to hear from residents, because that was one thing that staff was not aware of, what the residents wanted. We know that in some areas, neighbors prioritize parking over the street cleanliness. So we wanted really to hear the feedback from what the residents thought. Next slide, please. So this next slide is just a bird's eye view map of the program. The green areas are the 4 residential pilot areas. The yellow areas are areas that were either they either met the threshold or they were on the borderline of meeting the threshold. So we outreached to all those neighbors. And the red are areas that did not meet the criteria, so they did not receive outreach. Next slide, please. Outreach consisted of door hangers, tearaway postcards, and emails to residents who signed up for the post office's informed delivery emails. There were 2 rounds of outreach, and both rounds consisted of all 3 of those things. Here, this slide talks specifically of the door hanger. So you can see there the front and back of the door hanger. It was placed on approximately 1,900 households and multifamily dwellings, and it was multilingual in English, Spanish, Vietnamese, and Chinese. We put a QR code on there that directs to the Google survey, and we kept it as short to make it as simple for residents to reply. And from the door hanger alone, we received 303 responses. Next slide, please. There was also a postcard that was sent out. So you can see there that that's the kind of the flat image of the postcard, but I also have this here, the postcard that was sent out to the residents. You can see it's just front and back, and then you would open it up. And when you open it up, the residents can see the program as it stands and the pilot, what we're asking if they want it or not. There's a tearaway portion where they can tear away the survey. It's already addressed to us. There's already a paid postage to make it as simple as possible. So residents can just fill it out. Yes or no, I want this, why, and then rate the cleanliness of the street. And from that, we received 215 responses from residents. Next slide, please. So overall, we received 508 responses. That was a 27% response rate, meaning no area had over a 50% response rate, meaning that there were no areas that did meet the threshold for wanting this in their neighborhood. And in many areas, we actually saw that responses were very close between yeses and nos, closer than we were expecting. Next slide, please. So despite no area meeting the 50% threshold neighborhood support level, staff recommends adding 2 small areas. So you can see on the map there that Area 1 and Area 2 is already in the pilot program. Dempsey Road, that stretch of Dempsey Road with a little bit of their Yosemite on there. And then on the right-hand side is Calaveras Boulevard between North Temple and Gadsden. And the reason we're recommending these areas is because we received ongoing resident complaints throughout the year regarding litter, the storm drains with accumulation of litter out there, the cleanliness of the curbs and gutters. We went out there in the field and we looked many times in both of those areas. Every time we received a complaint, and we confirmed that parked vehicles people weren't moving their cars out there. And that made it very hard for the street sweeper to really access the curb and clean the streets thoroughly in those areas. The areas also border multifamily dwellings, both of them do. So there are a lot of residents that live out there.
And both areas are natural extensions of two current street sweeping pilot areas. So it would minimally impact the street sweeping route as well as the community service officer enforcement schedule. Next slide, please. So to dig a little deeper in one of the areas, the Dempsey and Yosemite area, we received 30 responses from the area. It was only about 8% response rate, but you can see there that on the top portion of it, there's a cluster of greens, and that's from a multifamily dwelling. That actually surprised us that all of the residents in that multifamily dwelling said, we want this. And that showed us that parking, the street sweeping was a priority for those neighbors in that multifamily residence. Next slide, please. Oh, actually, if you can move back a slide from the previous one. Yeah, and then one more. Thank you. So area 2. So this is an area of East Calaveras between Temple and Gadsden. I did want to note that this section was not surveyed to determine neighborhood support. And the reason for that is because we weren't aware of the severity of the litter out there until we were partway in the outreach already. We had already done the outreach. So we went and we worked with Milpitas Sanitation to try to mix up their street sweeping schedule. If they went there in the morning, we tried to get them to come in the late afternoon or early afternoon or all different hours to try to catch a time when there would be less cars out there. We talked to our streets team as well as code enforcement to talk about the littering at the multifamily properties that were out there. And finally, we decided to do a temporary special street sweeping out at the area because the litter was just there was so much litter there and it wasn't going away. So we worked very closely with PD, with Milpitas Sanitation and our streets team to put out no parking signs for that day. It was swept by the street sweeper and all of the cars, I think, except for one vehicle was moved. So PD was really helpful in getting all those cars to move for that day. I was so proud of the fact that it was really clean. It was the cleanest I had ever seen it out there. So I was happy that that was able to be done. But then I came back a couple days later and noticed that there was litter again. And that was continuing, and that was very disappointing to see. So that made us feel strongly as staff that there needed to be a more permanent solution and that these signs that neighborhood would, or that area would benefit from having these signs out there. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this is just a photo. You can see that's the East Calaveras area that I was talking about. That was a common site of litter out there. And then Dempsey Road, you can see also some pictures there. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'd like to take a moment to review the cost and the budget. Sorry, I think the slide back. Thank you. So the initial CIP budget was $400,000, and there was additional funding that was added of $300,000 for a total CIP project budget of $700,000. Expenditures and costs to date incurred is about $200,000, which leaves a balance of $500,000. If we were to move forward with the two areas, then the cost for signage installation out there is about $16,000. We are recommending that we retain about $184,000 for continuation of this street sweeping pilot with those two areas. And then also we recommend reallocating $300,000 from this project to the street pavement restriping program. And the reason for that is because we just didn't use as much as we anticipated. So we wanted to reallocate the funds to another project, which would actually double the budget for that project and assist with the backlog of the striping. Okay, next slide, please. Besides the parking prohibited street sweeping program, staff worked with MSI and other efforts to improve street sweeping. The last time we were here in 2023, medians were brought up, especially medians at gateways. So we reviewed the different areas, the different medians around the city of Milpitas. We worked with MSI to adjust their commercial sweeping schedule and to add these key median islands to the schedule. The key median islands are now swept once a month. And final slide, please. So in summary, our recommendation is that we add 2 areas to the parking prohibited street sweeping program. We recommend reallocating $300,000 to CIP 4295, the street pavement restriping program, and then to retain $184,000 for future area evaluation and expansions. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions from colleagues? So we'll call for the public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item?
We have Voltaire Montemayor.
Thank you.
This one, okay.
Yeah, Voltaire Montemayor of Milpitas. I have a couple of concerns, like some people ask me not only the sweeping, but some legal dumping also somewhere. They pointed out to me as I walk around, and we have to pay attention also to the request. Now this the sweeping, there was a lot of sources of funding, and then the residual is 500, and then it was balanced to the 300 and 184 and the 16. So it's just balanced good. Now on the sweeping, the 27% response for the moving of the cars. I understand a situation like a lot of cars and a lot of houses now, ADUs. So it's very hard to schedule some of those working and sleeping schedules of the residents. I think we're doing great, and at least there is a regular sweeping project and also the pilot. I like the showing on the details on the pilot. So it will be the city is doing great. In other words, if we follow now, if we really want the pilot, then it should be better than the regular schedule. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montemayor. Is there anyone else from the public that'd like to make any comments?
I have no additional public speakers, Mayor.
No more cards? Okay. All right, so come on back. Me Van, right? Thank you for your presentation, me. And now council discussion. Anyone have any comments? I think Vice Mayor Chua. I think yours is the one that doesn't work. There, you can
Working
use mine.
for me.
Oh, there it is.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say, this project, we 3 years ago, right? And we didn't know what to expect. And because of I've been going around town, and the places that we have the pilot projects, they were happy with it. And you can tell the difference if you look at the streets, there's a vast improvement from before. So I commend the team, Maven's team, Alan, and the interns, because they came up with a good strategy on how to implement the pilot project that we learned from. And I support the next phase of this one. I wish we can do it for the entire city, but it's cost prohibitive. I know we did an estimate before, and we couldn't afford it. So thank you so much, and thank you to Elaine and Christian for supporting this project. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Anyone else have any comments? Delegates. Okay, so I have a couple of comments. This no longer is a pilot program, so we've been doing it for a couple of years. And I also agree with the Vice Mayor. We have had some great responses from folks that really want to keep their streets clean. And this is an environmental issue. So I was surprised that you took a survey and there was, I think it was slide 6. Can you bring that one up? And I'm wondering why, since it is something for the greater good of the environment and there was less than 50%, I think, that, or more than 50% that was said no, you know, it just seems to me that it should, for the greater good of the environment, we should go ahead and ensure that we have the street signage and ensure that people move their cars. Nobody wants to move their cars, but sometimes you have to move your cars because it's for the greater good of the environment. I personally would like to keep that fund to have the street signage and to have the street sweeping. So I'm not in a recommendation. I'm not for the recommendation of staff to move some of that funding for the street striping because I think that was already in our CIP we already have that. Everything we do is it's already designated. So if you can explain why we're asking to move those funds from this pilot program to a street signage striping, or street striping.
Sure. Mayor, those are great points and great questions. One of the reasons why when we brought back the criteria to council in 2013, the council adopted the 50% support from the neighborhood was because parking on your street is a premium in certain areas and of a high value and convenience. And so that was just the criteria was done in recognition of wanting to make sure that there was neighborhood support for the program. It is important to have for the environment to get the litter off the streets. I think in most of these areas, we saw that there wasn't a large amount of litter on the streets. It was a modest amount of litter and mostly leafy debris that was on the streets. And so kind of balancing the neighborhood support and the environmental benefit was what we were trying to do with that criteria. And I think that's what we've seen from the outreach and the assessments that staff have done. In response to your question about moving the funding, I think we've seen that from the 3 years that we've been implementing the pilot and even continuing to evaluate potential expansion areas. We're just not using the funding. And so while there is already a CIP established for street paving, it is underfunded. And so we have been getting a lot of feedback and requests for increased street paving. And so that's why the recommendation from staff to move it from street sweeping pilot to support the street paving program. I believe we also have an RFP out on the street right now for the street paving services. And this money will actually kind of double the amount of budget that's available for that program. So we will be able to pave additional streets with it.
Yeah,
But again, it is council's prerogative.
Yeah, I'm just afraid that if we take that funding away, it's not going to come back. I mean,
we are, retaining $184,000 for ongoing expansion and evaluation. So there is still quite a bit of money, almost the amount that we've spent in the last 3 years.
yeah, and we have a climate action plan, and that involves pollution, and it just seems that we should be following our climate action plan. People. I know in us where the areas where it's really congested is where there's high density homes and the transient population. But we have to look at the greater good. So for me, myself, I'm not going to vote for this. I want to just keep it. I want that money to stay in the pilot. It's not a pilot anymore. It's to stay for street signage and increase the areas. But so anyway, I want some feedback from the council members. We have Councilmember Barbadillo.
When we started this in 2021, did we try to ask other cities that have this and base the program it from?
Yes, Councilmember Barbadillo, we did survey other cities and benchmarked against, I believe it was Hayward, San Jose, and some San Mateo County cities, and kind of mirrored the programs that they have. And yes, we also mirrored and benchmarked the criteria against their programs too.
Okay. So it's been 3 years and it seems that we are at 1.5%, or barely 6 miles out of I don't know how many miles. So do we believe that it's prudent to either continue this and expand, considering that we have funding issues, or is it proper to just terminate the program? I'm saying this just to look at the bigger picture. Terminate the program and channel it to something else. Because for 3 years at 1.5%, do we have a litmus? Do we have a measure as to what its benefits were, right? Does it just pick up litter, or does it disinfect the street? Those things. So the last 3 years, with the percentage of what we've been servicing, with the money that we're spending, is it worth moving forward? And is worth allocating CIP funds to it?
Yes, great question, Councilmember Barbadillo. And when we did the initial pilot, it was for 1 year. That's when we did do a lot of data collection and monitoring. It's when we did, and we reported back to council that we did see a lot of the cars moving off the streets. We were monitoring how much litter and debris was collected by the street sweeper. That went up as well. And then we actually surveyed the neighborhoods where the pilot was in and did get an overwhelming positive response. And so the neighborhoods that were affected and impacted wanted to keep the program. They did see the value in it. We also did measure less litter out in the streets. And so I think there is a value in keeping the areas that are currently being served by the program, and then also keeping some funds for future area expansion, such as the Calaveras area, which was not on staff's radar until we started getting complaints and looked into it more. And so I think that's partly why we want to keep the $184,000 is for future opportunities like that. So, hopefully we don't get too many more street sweeping complaints, but they do come in. And so we can use this as a tool going forward.
But what is the metric for us to conclude that this is working? I mean, it accomplished its objective in 2021.
Yeah, again, the metrics that we were using were measuring how many cars were on the street during the street sweeping window. And we did see, it was an 84% reduction. And so 84% of the cars moved off the street and cleared it for the street sweeper. We did also see an increase in the amount of debris and litter that the street sweeper itself was picking up in those areas. And then the third criteria was the streets were cleaner, just visibly cleaner after street sweeping days.
For cars to move, I think, that's code enforcement. So what I'm trying to solicit is, what's the core value of this pilot program? Are we partnering with Parks and Recreation, like, Behave Neighborhood in Parktown? We do have a contest, Clean Your Neighborhood, just to partner with this program. Because, if you look at the map, there's only spots, right? 1.6%. And you wouldn't realize the benefit because, what you're looking at is just spots on the map of Milpitas. So aside from maybe, right, we continue this and you have justified enough that this is a good program, but obviously with the rate that its success at 1.65% in 3 years, it would take decades, right? And more funding to totally have the street cleaning in Milpitas. So what I'm trying to say is, if we have this, we supplement this with another program. As I said, maybe a contest, beautify, clean your neighborhood. So when you look at the Milpitas as a whole, those spots are clean and it's augmented by some programs that we initiate. Then maybe at that time, if we take the whole picture of it, right? Even if we stop at 10% on the streets on this program, the rest the community has learned to be cleaner, and then we can alternate. So if the requirement is one of the requirements just cars not moving, then as I said, then let's ask the code enforcement to do that. But it should not be because there's street cleaning, right? It is because it's illegal to park. It's not proper to park your car more than 72 hours. So that's another issue that will not be, that is fortunately being solved by your notices that there's going to be a street cleaning on a particular day. But let's try to refocus the program, right? So its main goal, not to remove cars, but to clean, to sanitize, and grow it to a more discernible percentage of Milpitas. That's my thoughts, right? Because 3 years, it's too slow. I'll be honest. 1.5, and we've spent a lot of money. So it's either we junk it now, or give us a feasibility that not only this program would create a cleaner and a more sanitized Milpitas streets.
Thank you, Councilmember Barbadillo. I think I'm hearing what you're saying, and I think what we can do is look at opportunities for additional education partnerships, really looking at educating folks about the street sweeping program in general, why it's important, and even if you're not in one of these parking prohibited street sweeping areas,
Right.
why it's important to move your car. Well, yeah, we can work on that.
Because it's basic, being clean, right? And fortunately for this responsive part of the community, they get the street cleaning. But that doesn't mean that we provide them this service, then it speaks of the whole Milpitas. So I think it's it should be a citywide education about cleanliness, and one of the efforts and one of the programs that we have is this street cleaning. Then maybe at that time, we can convince not only the council to provide more or rechannel funds, but maybe grants or something like that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Babaji. But I just wanted to, I don't know if you're aware, but there is a fine if they don't move their cars. There is code enforcement, and they have to pay a fine. And so that goes to my question: how much is that? How much do we have in that budget? How many fines have we accumulated? So that's the incentive, actually. If you don't move it, then you get fined, and that's so. What is in?
Yes.
How much have we
Yes,
accumulated?
Mayor, great question. And actually, the fines are issued by the police department. Their community service officers do the patrol during the street sweeping window. The fine itself, if you don't move your car, it's $65 citation. And actually, I don't have off the top of our head these. Oh, Mita knows.
So in the first year that we did the pilot, that's when we were out walking the streets every time the street sweeper came through, taking metrics. And one of the metrics was the number of cars that were parked there. And we also captured how many citations were issued. So between mid-November, when we started issuing citations, because before then it was just warnings for people, mid-November to the end of the pilot in February, so less than a year, it was 309 citations at $65 a citation. And that actually was the most effective thing to get people to move their cars off the
Right.
street.
That's when you hit people in their pocketbook, that's when they move their cars. And it's only temporary. Only, you said it's only a couple of hours, right?
2 hours.
So
Yeah.
this is why, for me, it's really important that the signage go up. So, okay, thank you. And we have Vice Mayor Chua here. Oh, hold on a minute. There you go.
And just to note that while there is citation revenue that does go to the general fund, our analysis at the time was that the citation revenue wasn't enough to cover the cost of signage and the ongoing program.
Mhm. Thank you,
Vice
Mayor. I remember when we first did this pilot, even on the first year, we have excess. Because, I mean, we budgeted certain amount, I think it was 400 or 500, I can't remember. And then we have excess, I mean, we have leftovers of close to 200,000 that And that I think is what they're asking for. They don't really need the, if you will, the original allocation for this pilot project. And that's what they're asking for, to move that to the pavement, paving or striping of the, right?
Yes, correct, Vice Mayor. There was,
Yeah.
if you recall, the original CIP budget was 400,000 and then council allocated another 300,000. So it's kind of that 300,000, which we're
Yeah.
recommending get reprioritized and
Right, because
reallocated.
you don't use those funds anyway. There's no reason for it to stay in that bucket. You might as well just use it for another street purpose. So I think that's what they're
No,
asking
no,
for.
no, the problem is that it's there, but they're not going to expand it. You know, they're not going to designate other areas to put it in. It's going to cut back so that way.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
think-
the way I see it.
So just for point of clarification, Mayor and Vice Mayor, we are retaining 184,000 for future expansion areas. And so as areas become identified as potential expansion and we do outreach, if the criteria are met, we still have 184,000 to use on that outreach and that signage.
The reason why, because they do an extensive study of the streets before they actually go in. It takes time. They have interns that are doing all this, and and you and Alan too. And I've been there when we first did this. I was there on the first day, and I was there several days after, when they have to move the cars and all that. And I understand there's a lot of work. The funding is there, but it's really the work that is being done they're limited in terms of labor. And they're saying that why not use this extra funds for something else, which will benefit the city. Is that about it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone, any more comments? If not, we have Councilmember Lin.
Sure. I
Oh.
asked 390 tickets, where's the revenue going? Did we get to keep it all?
There's a problem.
I don't know why this is not working.
Where's Daniel? Daniel, this thing's not working.
I'm doing it right. Just,
It's not you.
it's, yeah. You can use hers. Have her use your mic. No.
Yeah,
There.
There you go.
okay, I'm good. Thank you. No questions.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so now I guess that's it. So is there any public comment on this? We already had one earlier, but I want to ask if there's anybody else want to say anything. Okay, so now time for is there a motion and a second? We have Vice Mayor Chua. That's the same. I think you need to hit your button. See that button right there?
When you turn it on, it's move to approve staff recommendation as stated on the item.
Your second? We have Councilmember Fan. Okay, so we have Vice Mayor Chua who made the motion. We have a seconded by Councilmember Fan. So we'll take the vote.
Councilmember Barbadillo,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Chua,
Aye.
Councilmember Lian,
Aye.
Councilmember Fan,
Aye.
Mayor Montano.
And I'm in a no. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we're moving on to leadership and support services. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. We have our Finance Director, Luz Kafrisi Howe here, and she will make a presentation on the annual fee schedule for 3 fees related to public infrastructure. The 3 fees are the TASP impact fees. So these are impact fees that developers pay with new development that to cover the costs of future infrastructure improvements in that area. Also, the Calaveras Boulevard widening traffic impact fee and a storm drain fee. So we'll turn the time over to Luz for a very brief presentation on the fee schedule.
Thank you, City Mayor Thomas. Good evening, Mayor Montano, Vice Mayor Chua, Council Members Leon, Barbadillo, and Pham, Luz Kafresi Howe, Director of Finance for the City of Milpitas. And I have a presentation. So this is going to be a remarkably brisk presentation. I actually came for I'm a fangirl of the artistic swimming, so I really was excited about coming. So thank you for the presentation and the opportunity, because I was glad to see that. It's incredible. Item number 15 is to adopt a resolution approving the fiscal year 2024-25 development and storm impact fees schedule for the transit area specific plan, the TASP, the impact fee, the Calaveras Boulevard widening traffic impact fee, and the storm drain fee. Next slide, please. So this has been appropriately noticed, the 10 days notice that's required. The State of California Mitigation Fee Act and City Municipal Code authorizes the City of Milpitas to impose, collect, expend mitigation fees to offset the impacts of development within a city. That's a quote. The City Municipal Code allows the development impact fees to be adjusted from time to time. The city last updated the TASP impact fee, the Calaveras Boulevard widening traffic impact fee, and the storm drain fee in FY 2023-24. And this was done by the finance director as a whole. The staff is recommending an increase of 3.59% for these 3 impact fees, based on the Engineering News Record, which is a construction publication. It's a well-known and well-considered publication. San Francisco Construction Cost Index increase from December 22 to December 23, which is the latest information we have for a whole year. Next slide, please. So this is the attachment A to this item. And this represents what it was in FY 23-24, an application of the 3.59%. And this represents, once again, just simply what we're doing. TASP, Calaveras Boulevard widening, the storm drain impact fee, and at the bottom is a calculation for the escalation. I'm going to point out that this is about 8 basis points less than the CPI, the Consumer Price Index that we applied to our other fees back in June. This is because there is a different basket of goods in those 2 indices. The CPI, the Consumer Price Index, it's a basket of goods that includes things like food and transportation and gas. And so it's very different. The construction index is very different because it speaks specifically to construction labor and construction supplies. So it is a very specific index that we use for this sort of increase. Next slide, please. So with that, I'm going to move to the recommendation, which is to adopt a resolution approving the FY 24-25 development and storm impact fee schedule for the TAPS impact fee, the Calaveras Boulevard widening traffic impact fee, and the storm drain fee. And with that, I am here to answer any questions at your pleasure.
Okay, thank you very much for those comments, that presentation. Call for the public comment on this item. Thank you, Mr. Montemayor.
Yeah, Voltaire Montemayor Milpitas. Yeah, there are always delays when these construction or we call them development storm impact fees happens. Of course, commuters are impacted, and we need fees for the trafficking police department and all those construction vehicles on the sides, and it will be a big delay on traffic. So yeah, for me, this is the recommendation for this fiscal year 24-25 should be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montemayor. Anyone else from the public? City Clerk, do we have any cards?
I have no speaker cards, Mayor.
Thank you. And so now we will ask our council members if they have any discussions on this. We have Vice Mayor Chua.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Finance Director Luz, can we go back to attachment A on the 24-25 development and storm impact fee schedule? I know the variance, it's 3.59%. Do we know the net of I mean, how much are we expecting?
Thank you for the question. Because we can't estimate development revenues because that's completely out of control of our control. It's when the development happens. We can't really estimate anything, but I took the liberty of looking at what we did as far as collecting dollars and for these three fees, looking at June 30th, 2024 numbers. If you hang on a second, effectively, what that number turned out to be total across all of them was about $800,000 if we had applied the 3.59% to the monies that we collected during the FY 23-24 timeframe. So again, once again, I want to caution folks because we can't predict what developers do.
I understand.
But that is sort of a general idea that we can provide you.
So this
total revenues were 800,000. And that 3.59% applied to that 800,000, it represents about 29,000 increase. So last year, we collected roughly $800,000. If we had had another 3.59% added to that, that would have been another 29,000.
So
those are
that's
very
that's
rough
the
numbers.
difference, right?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I was expecting more.
I know.
I was hoping for more.
Thank you, though.
Thank you. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And next we have Councilman Braun Lin.
Yes, Liz, how do we compare our impact fee from other cities?
I did not really look at other cities for these impact fees. We did a nexus study on the storm fees a couple of years in 2023. And we also did a nexus study on the task fee a couple of years ago as well, and we were comparable. So I did not do a review of this year's development fees. This is a tempered approach. It speaks to inflation, if nothing else. And so it is about labor. So but I can certainly bring that back to council if so desired.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lin. Is there anyone else? We have Councilmember Anthony Ban. Anthony, did you? Yeah, he did.
Next one.
Okay. So is there a reason why we don't have a current nexus? Yeah. I
don't think that we do those annually. So
I can speak to this a little bit because I'm familiar with the Mitigation Fee Act. The Mitigation Fee Act requires a nexus study every 5 years because they're rather expensive to undertake. And because the cost of those nexus studies would be included in the fees and borne on the developers, we generally do them every 5 years in accordance with the Mitigation Fee Act.
Okay. And so you said we have the most recent nexus that we have on the storm impact fee.
It's 2023. I think Public Works brought that to you last.
Sure. Yeah, I recall that.
Right.
But in regards to the task fees,
Task fee, I don't know, but I can find out.
I
and
can
bring it
answer
back.
that one,
Thank
actually.
you.
Yeah. We last did a nexus study for the task fee in 2019. That was the first time that it had been updated since 2014. And and it has continued to be updated each year according to the index that was shared tonight. And now it's 5 years. So we would have done a nexus study now, but for the fact that we are currently updating that task fee to represent the new infrastructure plan that is included with the metro plan that was approved last year. That fee update should be coming to the council early next year.
okay,
Thank you.
for tasks. Okay, so seeing as to how we're due for that update on at least the task, I would want to wait until we have those results. I feel like a lot has changed within the last 5 years. And during this critical point in time where we're seeing projects either fall apart or just not come forward, I have reservations with any immediate increases. So, I'm open to the storm drain fee because I know that it is necessary investments for the city. Based off of the fairly recent nexus, I'm okay with that. But yeah, like the task fee, I do have reservations on at this time.
I think that we would be bringing you the task study sometime in the spring, if I could estimate properly. If you want more information, I can defer that either to City Manager Thomas or Assistant City Manager Kano, who are involved directly, but I think that that'll come back. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Fan. Is there anyone else? I don't see his light on. Are you? I don't see your light on.
There you go. Thank you. I lost my thought. No, it's okay. I'm just kidding. All right. So the reason, if I'm hearing it right, the reason why we're initiating this now, before that question, when will this take effect if we approve it tonight?
It will take, thank you for the question. It'll take 60 days. It will take effect in 60 days.
Today. All right. So as I was listening with the discussion, I believe I heard that we're doing this because we're updating the plans, Metro Plan and the TASP. And we just want to coincide this thought of increasing development fees and storm drain fees as we update the plans and zones.
Yes, if I may, it's really two different projects, but related to the same area.
Okay.
So there is an ongoing update to the fee and the way the fees are calculated so that we can, and there will be an increase based on the additional infrastructure that is required under the new Metro plan.
Right.
And so that's been ongoing for a year or two now and is almost concluded. But what we have before you tonight is just the annual increase based on pretty much purely on the inflation. So you'll recall, just to make a comparison, when we talk about budget or when we talk about salary adjustments with the city, for example, in the budget, we always include the 3% as an increase, and you'll notice that this is also 3%. And that's just kind of, I lose, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of used as a rule of thumb. But the reason I bring that up is we're trying to, in this case, I use that as an example, is we try to balance the revenues with the expenditures. So if If our expenditures are going up, and this is related to infrastructure, not to salaries. So I don't want to make that, I don't want to mix things up, but I'm just purely, as we look at money coming to the city and the money going out to the city, if one is increasing by about 3%, in this case, the income, the revenue is being increased by about 3% as well. Is that a good way to?
Yeah, I just want to be very clear that this is tied to a construction cost index.
Right.
And not a consumer price index, which is what we bring to you when we're increasing fees.
Right. I fully understand that the CPI we used the last time, we shoot it down at 3% instead of the CPI 6, right? The first one.
The last
Right.
CPI increase that we had, which you approved in June, was for 3.67%.
And that was from that was against the recommendation of whoever we hired that put 6% on it.
Yes,
I
sir, it
understand
was.
that, right? And the payer at that policy is the community, right? Mostly. So now I do understand you're basing this increase on inflation and construction index. The question is, and I think Ned partly responded to it, is why now? Because we're updating everything, and then it just so happened that it's the inflation is this, and the construction index is this, and hence we present the council, let's increase it.
To be honest with you, this should have traveled with the fees that came to you in May and June. It did not. And so we decided to bring it now, even though understanding that we were undergoing a test nexus study. All indications are is that is going to be an increase as well, given time, inflation, and construction costs overall. So we're actually attempting to sort of a little bit soften
The
a
impact.
a future impact that we expect to bring to council.
I get that. I want money for the city. It's just that like the discussion that we had when we're channeling that CPI increase to the community, I also want it balanced with the incoming businesses in Milpitas, right? Because if we just unilaterally say, hey, this is the construction index, hey, we're updating the plans and this needs to increase, what is the correlation to our pipeline for businesses and build out in the TASP area, regardless?
This is a different population that is paying these fees. It is developers in a particular area. So it is a well-constructed area that's well-defined. And developers who come to these areas and put developments in place, we're increasing those fees. The fees that we talked about in May and June are those paid by our residents or our users of services.
Hold on. I fully understand the distinction of what we did in May and today, right? What I'm trying to say is the balance that we did in May when the consumer were paying, the community were paying, I don't see it on your explanation on this increase on the TASP fees. You get it?
You want to add that?
I fully understand your distinction with CPI and CI. And the difference between the two, the first one is the community paying, now this one are the businesses paying. All I'm asking is, were our pipeline for developments in the TASP area affected by this increase considered? Did we make at least an analysis? Hey, we're increasing it at 3-point-something%, whatever you're asking, and this will not impact our pipeline or will not impact ABC company who plans to dwell in Milpitas in the next 5 years. Because all I'm hearing is we need to do this. CI is commanding us to do it.
Thank you for your question and your comment. Let me see if I can address it in this manner. We are undergoing a study now.
Okay.
And so a choice and an option for council is what Councilmember Pham has proposed, is that we could leave the storm drains in place because that's a relatively new nexus study, and then wait until we see what changes and recommendations we will bring to you once we have the test study completed. And so we can do it that way because that will give you clear understanding. As city attorney, as the city attorney has explained, these nexus studies are expensive. We are undergoing one. We expect to bring the results back in the spring. However, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Assistant City Manager Matt Kano, and thank you for the question and the great feedback, council members. And I understand what you're asking, Councilmember Barbadillo, is how have we analyzed specifically how this fee increase could or would impact the development projects that are in the pipeline and their financial performance.
And the businesses that comes later on that will be affected by this.
Sure, thank you. And the it's a complicated analysis, and even when the analysis is done, there's typically arguments on both sides about who's right and who's wrong, and what the cost of development really is. And so what we but the direct answer is no, we have not done a deep dive on the cost of development for the specific projects coming and exactly how this fee correlates to all of their costs. However, it's important for us that since this money is used to construct the public improvements in the TASP area, if we don't keep if these fees and the money we collect does not keep pace with the price of construction, what's going to happen is we're going to collect the money, but we won't be able to build all the infrastructure for our residents. And it is very important for us that we ensure that the new development that's moving into the city is paying for the infrastructure that is required for that new development, because if we don't collect enough money, eventually we'll have to go out for a bond or use a general fund and have existing residents pay for that new infrastructure. And so we felt that having a modest construction cost increase, which keeps pace with the price of construction, but is relatively modest at 3.5%, would be, and it is important if we continue to wait to update fees until future nexus studies. What cities often do is they just freeze fees 1 year, they'll freeze them the next year, they'll freeze them the next year, and then 5, 8, 10 years later, they'll still be frozen. They won't be able to buy anything. And so it's absolutely up to the mayor and city council on what you decide tonight. I understand there's a lot of questions, but it is our recommendation to have this increase on the TASP fees to keep up with the price of construction.
As I said, don't get me wrong. I like money coming into the city, right? But when you come present, on my one vote, I vote on my toes, right? What I was presented and what I know. But if you tell me, we propose this because we feel it's up to you, then it's not convincing. We present this because, not only that the CI, not only that we need money, we did not go deep dive on the analysis on future businesses and the pipeline, but this is a logical approach for us to generate money and make sure that any development in that area will be sustained. That's what I want to hear, at least on my one vote. Not, okay, we're presenting you this is what we feel, it's up to you anyway. You want to wait for a nexus or you want to do it now in 60 days. You're the expert. You present us and then you give us that choice.
Yeah, absolutely, Councilmember. And I apologize if I misspoke. I mean, I just want to be clear, it's ultimately your choice, but it is our very strong staff recommendation to proceed with these increases tonight to keep pace with the price of construction on our fees.
Okay. All right, yeah, I'll vote for it. It's just that hopefully next time, it's more convincing, right? It's not because, we're developing plans, we suddenly saw one day the CI is this, there's inflation, hey, we need to increase it. Something more, because we're answerable not only to the community, we're answerable to the businesses coming. It could have been better, what we talked with the investment director, I forgot, right? Or whatever department. And, it's fine. Here is even not a deep dive. Here is our pipeline. We believe that on simple statistics, it's acceptable to these people. It will not shoo away next businesses coming in, other than saying, hey, it's the CI. So that, but you have my vote because as I said, I believe that this will make sure that infrastructures of that area will be covered whenever development is, but we need a little bit more information.
Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Councilman Barbadillo.
Thank you, Councilmember Barbadillo. So I have we have, okay, go ahead, Vice Mayor. Hold on.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one quick question. How often can we do the change? Doesn't say.
It just says, the language is very general. It says you can adjust it from time to time.
So it doesn't matter. There's no iteration like
There's no
every
iteration.
year, every quarter, every.
We want to do it every year to keep up, as Assistant City Manager said, to keep up with costs. And as we get those inflationary costs, we do it every year so we don't have this huge bump every 5 years. And it would be a significant bump if we held our pricing steady. We've had significant changes in construction costs in the last 5 years.
Yes.
Certainly the part of that was for the pandemic, but certainly part of that was just labor and costs
When was
and the
the-
supply chain. Yes, ma'am.
Well, when was the last time we made a change?
In 23, 24.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And City Manager wanted to make a comment.
Yeah, very briefly, just for the vice mayors and others for as an example. So when we updated and this is related to the task fee, when we did the last Nexus study and we updated that in 2019, it had not been updated since 2014. So there was no annual increase. It was just, I don't know if it was overlooked or why it was not increased. The jump was significant and it was a significant burden it would have been a significant burden on the development community at that time. So the council at that time, as I recall, approved a graduated approach where we slowly introduced the very large, rather than having one large jump, we had it over within 3 months, any projects that come in will pay a certain amount. If it's after 6 months, after 9 months, and it was a little cumbersome to administer, I will say, but by the end of 2020, we were caught up, and every year since then we have brought before the council an annual update so that we stay caught up and we don't have a large jump.
Thank you, City Manager. So yeah, I just wanted to mention, you're right, Ned, because Gary and I were on the city council at the time, and the fees weren't being collected, and we was like a huge, I don't know if you remember, we was like, what? So now that's why now it was a big mistake, but I'm glad that now we're on track. But my question is, for the task fees, I know we're collecting fees, but I've been pushing to have fees from because of the future Midtown plan, for Main Street, we have Toll Brothers, we have the car wash, we had Stratford. And I've been asking, why aren't we making it collecting impact fees? And the reason is, from what I've been told, is we haven't finished with the Midtown plan, the plan. So I want some verification on that.
Yes, Mayor, you are correct. The Midtown Plan will be publicly released, the draft of it, very shortly. And then we will, after that council approves that plan, we will move forward with fees for that area. And we'll start that work concurrently with the final approval of the plan, so it doesn't take too long afterwards.
Yeah, I just wish it would have moved faster because there's so much development there and we're losing out. We've lost out on those impact fees. Yeah, so when you said very shortly, what does that mean?
Let me follow, if you don't mind, I will follow up with the schedule to make sure we're clear and on the same page.
Yeah, that's lost income for the infrastructure.
Yes, but we are already talking about getting that going as the public, and you'll receive an update from the planning department pretty soon at council on the plan as well.
Okay.
So we'll follow up with that information.
All right, thank you for that. And so now, no more, we have Councilmember Barbadillo. Let me hold on a minute.
Came around. So I remember, I've sat to 2 terms in council, and we have approved and came about developments, right? there are these things called side agreements, side agreement, development agreements that usually waives fees. I think to strengthen what we're trying to do tonight, we try to revisit policies on side agreement development fees, right? We increase it here and comes on a certain specific project, then waive them anyway or give them a discount. It would be something counterintuitive to what we're trying to do tonight. So just for future policy considerations,
Thank you
Right.
for the question. I believe that in the past, this council has deferred fees. I can't speak to it, so I'll let.
Right. So no, that's what I'm saying, right? Here we're trying to raise to acceptable indexes development fees in the TSAP. But I remember, as I said, in historically, through a council's vote, right, or discretion, we waive these fees or we discount them on a development agreement, if I remember things right.
Well, Councilmember Barbadillo, thank you for the question. If you don't mind me addressing it, since I've been here, the council has approved a single development agreement. That single development agreement actually functionally increased the fees. It
Right.
involved a $1 million community benefit.
I'll give you an example. Maybe it predated everyone, and I won't name a development. The one by Landes, right? At some point I fought for the 9 million because they're asking discount for 3 million years back. Maybe this is 14 or 15. So those kinds of agreements, what I'm talking about. Yeah, you go to history. And I don't know if it turned out a lawsuit at the time, but the developer were, I believe, if I remember it right, asking for at least 3 million in discount.
And understood, council member, and if I say anything wrong here, please correct me, city attorney.
Well,
But
I made
right,
that example
would-
just for policy considerations since we're increasing it here. Because as I said, we increase it here and we reduce it here, then it.
Understood, council member, and definitely taking this feedback. At this time, we don't have any plans to engage in discussions on fee reductions with particular developments.
Okay.
At this time.
Okay.
But if
Good to
there
hear.
is ever any proposal that we would have, we would definitely bring that forward to the city council for
Right, not
consideration.
necessarily a specific discussion for reduction of fees, but as a form of policy consideration, there should be a tight guideline because, in papers, tomorrow they will say Milpitas raise development fees, right? But nobody will learn later on, and it will be unfair to the public if we cater for a discounted fees on a particular project, which will even up what our efforts are tonight.
Absolutely,
Right.
Councilmember. I hear what you're saying, and again, at this point in time, we're not engaging in any discussions with discounted task fees with any developers. And if that ever came as a question, it's something that we could bring to the city council for consideration, but we're not engaging in any of those discussions at this point in time, and we
Okay.
don't have any current plans to do so.
Right, maybe not for policy consideration in the future, but for our general policy consideration in the development of the TASP area.
Understood.
Right, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Barbadillo. Is there anyone else that would like to make any more? We have Councilmember Fan.
Do these new fees proposed apply to projects already in the pipeline?
If there are fees,
I can answer that one too. The fees are paid when the building permit is
Yeah.
paid. So if the project is under construction, it doesn't apply.
Right.
But if it's a new project that is being proposed or is currently under review by the city, then within 60 days, after 60 days, the new fee would apply.
Okay,
The
so I'm not comfortable with that. Just because of issues that can go on with inspection and plan check prior to the permit, the actual building permit being issued. for me, I would like projects that are already at the very least entitled or have actually projects that have submitted for approval to have like our current fees, the most recent fees applied.
Actually, I think, actually, you use the key word there is the projects that are entitled. And I think the entitlement I would have checked, I think it locks in the fee at the current rate for them. They pay it at the time, but the entitlement will lock it in at the current rate, at the current rate when the entitlement is adopted. It's one of the conditions of approval of that entitlement.
Okay, just want to make sure like, you know, that also is applicable for, you know, any in the event of like any entitlement extensions,
Let
like
me-
when
if-
when
in-
entitlements are like renewed.
I don't, yeah, we're not prepared to, we can't speak to that. If I may proffer, that we would come back with an analysis of what's in the pipeline and what that would affect. I'd like to offer that if we could, because I'm concerned about not giving you an accurate answer. I don't want to be, I want to be we want to be very transparent about what this is. So if we could beg the council's indulgence to come back.
Yeah, I would very much appreciate that.
If
I mean, did you want to add anything, City Manager? I would just say, add to what Luce was saying is, if that is the recommendation to be really clear on the timing and any pipeline issues, that's something we would have to do some analysis on. I wouldn't want to provide the wrong information on the dais right now to you.
Yeah, I would need that before voting. So
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Fan. Okay, so since we're done with council discussion, is there a motion and a second from anyone? Councilmember, you have a comment? Okay. Okay, Councilmember Lin. Press that.
Okay. So I understand that there are concerns and questions out there from our council members here. Why don't we bring this back at the next meeting with all the questions answered so that we can vote on it and feel confident of our votes?
Not the next meeting, but whenever. November 5th.
I thought the next meeting would be the 22nd, right?
It's November 5th.
Whenever.
Okay.
Just say,
So bring this back for future meetings.
I second.
Okay, so we'll call.
Just for
City
clarification, so
manager.
not necessarily the next meeting, it was, yeah, so a future meeting after
future
we've answered the questions. We
Okay.
can do that.
Yeah, because it's pretty small window for you guys to do all that research. Okay, thank you.
make sure that we know what the questions are. Okay, so effectively what we're doing is looking at the projects that are in the current pipeline. And we'll see how they would be affected by this proposed increase of 3.59%. And the timing of when they would pay, when the fee was established and when they would pay that fee. And so we would be looking at our pipeline. We would also be looking at, we do a cursory evaluation of other municipalities. Once again, understanding that it's apples and oranges, and we may be able to elicit some information from the ongoing study, but I'm not quite sure how comfortable I feel about, and I'll need direction from the city manager's office to see what we can provide as far as comparators, that we can do something about that. So those are the two things that I heard. Was there anything else?
So Vice Mayor Chua.
I'm going to second that with a comment that bring it back when you're comfortable with all the the issues that, not issues, just questions that were raised tonight. And I would suggest that somewhere on the document that this review analysis should be done once a year. We don't want to miss 1 year. That's all. Thank you.
So just a quick comment. You mentioned that it's costly. If it's done once a year,
Is a nexus study that we do every 5 years that is required, as the city attorney spoke to, it's required every 5 years, is rather expensive and it's rather lengthy because it is an evaluation of everything. It's really looking at it from the ground up. So it's starting from zero sum and tearing down what we have and building it back up. And it's frankly been going on for quite a while. So that study, again, I'm not making any commitments. It'll come to you sometime in the next year, and I would say the spring, but that may not be until you see any sort of proposed increase. I am concerned that we are going to be in a similar position as we were with 2019, probably not as severe from the 2014 to the 2019. And given this is a somewhat tempered approach to increasing the fees, in the fact that it's not, even though it's not a direct comparator to the CPI, a big chunk of this construction cost index is labor, is people cost. But we can certainly take your direction from what I'm hearing and bring it back. It may not be this calendar year. I just want to be very conservative. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think I'll just add to what Finance Director Luz Capresi was saying. I think the focus of our analysis when we bring it back is to look at what are those pipeline projects? How many are there, which ones they are, and how they would be impacted by the timing of the fee increase as far as if they've pulled building permit or not. And so that's going to be the focus of what we'll be looking at. And we'll bring that back so that you have that information in hand when you're making your decision.
That's good.
Okay,
That's good.
thank you.
One last thing.
Councilmember Lian.
Councilmember Lin. Press that your.
Okay. I also want to know why we picked 3.59. This is why I asked the question that I asked. What do we compare that to? And how are we comparing to other cities around us? Or how did you come up with the 3.59?
Well, we came up with 3.59 because it reflects construction costs, an increase in construction costs. We looked at two sets of costs of an inflation index. And once again, we're looking at the Engineering News Record, which is an industry publication well-known that publishes these increases specifically for the San Francisco area. And that's who we're competing with. And that's where our inflation costs come in. And so if, hang on a second, I'll tell you exactly what's in these costs. It's 200 hours of common labor at the 20-city average of common labor rates, plus 25 weights of standard structural steel shapes at the mill price, and the fabricated 20-city price from 1996 plus 1.128 tons of Portland cement at the 20-city price. It's a very technical answer.
Okay.
And so it really is based on what is to build.
Okay.
And so this is what we're looking at when we're looking at our costs. How much does it cost us to build? And so that's why that inflation is, because remember, this is to defray the cost of public infrastructure.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're looking at. So that's why we use a construction cost index.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. Oh, we have one more from Councilmember.
You know what?
Arpadillo.
I was ready to approve it, right? But the thing is, I will agree with the whole council. Council member Fan asked a very simple question: who will be affected in 60 days? And staff is not ready to answer that. How's that? You're presenting us a fee increase and a simple question: who will get affected in the next 60 days? As we don't know. We will have to look at the pipeline. we'll have to look at the dates, and then we'll come back to you and tell you who among these businesses in the pipeline will be affected. Why are we not so prepared?
To be clear, my understanding is that the fee is set at entitlement, so those fees were set at the old rate. But
Right.
we
No,
want.
you heard that from a city manager, said maybe the basis is when there is entitlement, but that was as straightforward when this was presented.
Councilmember Barbadillo, I can answer that question
Right.
for you if you'd like. The conditions of approval that are generally approved by the council. So the council can certainly change conditions of approval depending on the project. And that's what we meant when deferring it. But for 99% of the projects that I've seen come before this council, the condition of approval says that fees will be calculated and paid at the issuance of the building permit. What the planning department does and what the building department does is it allows various projects, if they choose to, depending on whether they're cash rich or cash poor, to pay those fees early once the entitlement is improved. So we've had several projects go ahead and pay those fees early. Once they've paid those fees, based either on the square footage or however the fee is calculated per lot, per whatever it is, that fee is then locked in. If it's at the entitlement stage that they choose to pay it, then that fee is locked in. If they choose not to pay it at the entitlement phase and wait till the building phase, the building permit issuance phase, then what they're doing is taking a risk that there's going to be an increase between those two time periods. That risk may be worthwhile for the developer or not worthwhile for the developer, depending on how their funding is working, whether it's a cash poor project, whether it's a cash rich project. So that is entirely within the hands of the developer.
Right.
Now, there is also then a new law that will go into effect in 2025 that says for certain residential projects that have a certain amount of low income, we can't request that they do it at the building permit stage. The COAs are going to change in 2025 so that the council then requires it for these special projects that need to be in line with state law to issue at the date of occupancy. At that point, for these projects, they'll have three choices. If they want to lock in their fees early because they want to make sure there are no increases, they could do it at the entitlement stage. If they want to do it at the building permit stage, they could lock it in at the building permit stage. If they're a cash poor project and they qualify under this new law, then they could also wait until occupancy. The risk to waiting for the developer is always going to be that there could be a fee increase while you're waiting. So it's the short answer to the complicated question is it's entirely in the hands of the developer. I couldn't tell you which projects have prepaid their fees and which projects have not right now. But the way the city works it is it allows the developer to make that choice based on the risk the developer wants to take concerning the amount of fees that they're
Right.
going
You
to
should have talked to Michael Finance, right? That's what I'm asking. So those those businesses who already prepaid it because they don't want to take the risk are not covered. As simple as that. We don't have to go look on on the businesses on the pipeline. A council member fan, those people who paid it already are not covered. Those people who deferred it, who were going to take the risk, and the incoming businesses will be covered. Why do we need a research on that? You should have just talked to Mike.
And this is, if we have these types of questions early enough, then we would be happy to answer them in the meeting. And that's why we offer a briefing to each of the council meeting members before the meeting. So we would be happy to entertain those questions.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Barbadillo. So there was a motion and the maker of the motion, can you repeat?
Mayor, the motion was to defer this to a future date.
Okay, was there a motion to defer to a future date? That's the motion, yeah. So, and it was motion by
Motion by Councilmember Lian,
Dan,
seconded by Vice Mayor Chua.
Your vote?
Councilmember Barbadillo,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Chua,
Aye.
Councilmember Lian,
Aye.
Councilmember Fan,
Aye.
Mayor Montano.
And I'm an aye. Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation,
Thank you for your
Luz.
time.
Thank you. Okay, now we're moving on to announcements and future agenda items. City Manager, do you have any announcements?
Yeah, I have two brief things. Next Friday on the 25th, our Milpitas Community Concert Band will be giving a concert at the community center. It's at 7:30 p.m. It's a Halloween concert, and there will be a kids costume parade too, if you're interested in that. The other item I wanted to address is at our last meeting, toward near the end of the announcements, Councilmember Leon requested a status report from staff on the city's current vacancy rate and open recruitments and personnel policies. So I'm going to provide some basic information tonight and then I've also asked the Human Resources Director to prepare and present a more detailed report in an upcoming council meeting. And again, we're also available to hold individual briefings if council members have questions or wish to discuss particular issues. Very briefly, two data points. As of the end of September 30th, the city has 34 vacancies. That's on a total of 455 FTEs. That translates into a vacancy rate of 7.5%. And that's right in the middle of our goal, our target goal of the range of between 6 and 10%. And just for comparison, and these are not cherry picked in any way. They're just cities that are of similar size. So Sunnyvale currently has a vacancy rate of 9.5%. Morgan Hill at 9%, Palo Alto at 11%, and Los Altos Hills is over 18%. And I just want to note that this is a little bit of apples and oranges because, for example, Los Altos Hills is large because it's a very small jurisdiction with a small number of employees. Then the other data point I want to share is during the first quarter of this fiscal year, so July, August, September, city has filled 20 full-time vacancies. And by comparison, during all of last year, the city filled a total of 56 full-time vacancies and as well as over 100 part-time positions. So that will give you a flavor of the pace that we're at. One of the reasons that we're able to do more in this first quarter is that the HR department is currently fully staffed. We have 2 full-time recruiters. We appreciate the council's support in the current budget with having those 2 recruiters on board. And we have 1 temporary part-time recruiter. And that allows one of the recruiters to focus specifically on the public works department where there's a large need for filling positions. So I'll leave it at that for tonight. And then again, I have asked the HR director to provide a brief presentation to the council at a future meeting just on overall vacancies and recruiting efforts of the city.
Can you have a report on that actual email or?
Yeah. Well.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or thank you.
You bet.
Is there anyone else that would like to? We have Councilmember Lynn.
Okay, thank you, City Manager, for that report. If we are going to bring that back, I would like to also see the HR report covering the procedures on how we do our hiring, where we post our vacancies, and do we follow the policy? Because I want it to be fair to the Milpitas residents here in case they are looking for the same kind of job. And also if they are going to, if Kelly is going to bring this back, I'd like to see how many vacancies were filled by San Jose staff. And if we are, being fair in our posting. And one question for City Attorney. If we discover that we have violated the hiring procedure or the process, how do we go back to fix it to avoid any lawsuits?
So one of the important things about my job is that I'm probably not going to ever give legal advice on the dais. Those are avoiding lawsuits would be something specifically we would talk about in closed session. As far as council policies, generally what what we would expect from the council is for the council to be looking at prospective policies to, if were mistakes made in the past or there were errors made in the past, we would look at the council, we would look for the council to figure out ways to correct it so those errors don't happen in the future. If there are issues regarding lawsuits or something of that nature, that'll be something we can discuss in closed session where we'll have the benefit of the attorney-client.
Thank you, Councilmember Lin. I do have one announcement, and that was actually a referral. So I ran into Stephen Balsbaum this today, and he was talking about potential pickleball field at the Dixon Landing Park. So I'd like a feasibility study to be on the a feasibility study to be conducted for the future. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor.
Hold on a minute. Okay. Did you press it?
I did.
Okay. There.
Thank you, Mayor. There is already an ongoing effort by our team staff to address the overall approach strategy for pickleball in Milpitas, and that's one of them.
Oh, that's included.
That's included in the overall.
Is that correct, staff?
Yes, and whenever they're ready to present sometime.
So Matt, can you speak on that? Is that part of the
Yes.
feasibility study? Is that part of
I
it?
see. Thank you, Matt Kano, Assistant City Manager. Our current focus on coming back to council, an email actually went out today to the pickleball users at Hall Park regarding some near-term resurfacing and acoustic improvements that are going to happen either later this month or next month. And then after that, we're going to be doing some more analysis of Hall Park and then bringing back a recommendation in early 2025 for Hall Park. So that's our current focus is on Hall Park. However, we are kind of not formally initiating a study for other locations quite yet in the city of Milpitas, but it is part of our frequent conversations and it is on our mind.
Yeah, and that's
And
why I'm bringing that
and
up.
so we are continuing to kind of think of other locations, but right now
Right.
the real work we're doing is for Hall Park.
Right.
And
So that's why
I
I'm
would
bringing
just
up.
like to remind both
This
staff
is
and council
yeah.
that this item's not agendized and we need to
Yeah.
be careful about the
That's
amount of
why-
discussion.
That's why I wanted to bring
If
it
we
up.
want to take a
Consensus vote?
consensus vote on the feasibility study, we
Yeah,
can.
it's just a feasibility study. So that's a request. Okay.
It would be a vote to
So,
add it
vote.
to the prioritization list for our next prioritization session.
All right, so this will be for consensus. Councilmember Barbadillo,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Chua,
No, because it's part of the overall strategy that the staff is looking at.
Councilmember Leanne,
Aye.
Councilmember Pham,
Nay.
Mayor Montano.
And I'm an aye. All right. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.